the chairman of Prince William County Board of Supervisors, Corey, losing in a very close race in June, losing the nomination to Ed Gillespie. Corey said at the time Gillespie would not win, that it would be just another establishment candidate that goes down in flames. And Corey Stewart, now the only announced candidate running for U.S. Senate for the Republican nomination in 2018 to go up against Tim Kaine. And the question we have for Corey Stewart right now is, Corey Stewart, number one, thanks for joining us. Number two, is the Republican Party of Virginia now the party of Corey Stewart? That's our question.
Well, thank you, John. Well, I can tell you that what we saw yesterday was exactly what I said was going to happen. When you nominate phony establishment Republicans who have no message, they won't embrace the president, they ridicule his supporters, and they lull the base to sleep. And hopefully we're going to realize, this morning, that with these historic losses that, the Republican Party, at least in a couple of generations, the biggest ones, are we going to say enough is enough and turn around and we're going to say, look, today we start the rebuilding? That's what we've got to do.
Okay, now, let's just be honest with each other and, tell the truth. This is exactly what Corey Stewart said was going to happen. He said if Ed's the nominee, the whole thing is going to go down in flames. They're going to take a bunch of House members with them. He wouldn't inspire the Trump voters. The other side is already inspired. I mean, you look at, we were talking about today, Corey, and E.W. Jackson brought this up. Saxman, who's with me, Chris Saxman, brought it up. The Democrats turned out 200,000 people in the primary, higher than we did. And Stewart said at the time, look, if this trend continues, you're going to get your clocks cleaned. And that's exactly what happened. Now, Corey, let me ask you this. Ed played footsie with Trump for 6 months. He wouldn't have him at a rally. He avoided the guy like the president like the plague. One email of support, Twitter, tweet, he didn't even retweet it. I mean, the list goes on. He wouldn't even meet. He's never actually met the president. He had an opportunity to meet him. He didn't go. The president wanted to come to Southwest Virginia. Phil Cox, Ed Gillespie's consultant, said no. So, I mean, he ran away from the president, took his voters for granted, and we have a disaster on our hands. So you say you want to fix it. How do you fix it?
Well, the first thing is you need new leadership, don't you? I mean, we're going to have to look at that. And I think John Whitbeck's got some soul-searching to do today. I think the entire Republican establishment's got some soul-searching to do today, and I think it's probably time that they, maybe let the big boys in and let's take control of this ship. Let's douse the flames and set it on a different course. That's what we're going to have to do.
In a statement you put out last night, Corey Stewart said, and I'm just going to read back your own words. Corey Stewart said, "We were told Virginia needed a moderate to win, so we nominated one," that's Ed Gillespie. "But after listening to the Swamps consultant class, Virginia Republicans have gone from losing by 2.5 points to 9. And you went on to say Virginians will learn from tonight, and 2018 will be a fantastic year for Republicans as we fight the left and take our country back." My first question is, how do you become the nominee? How do you win the nomination in Virginia in 2018?
Well, I mean, winning the nomination is going to be the easy part compared to what we've got to do in November. Knocking off Tim Kaine is going to be, the thing is, let me just give you another prediction.
Go ahead.
Democrats are going to see this, and the pundits as well, and a lot of the press, they're going to see this as a repudiation of Trump, and they're going to be wrong about that. And they're going to, in Assembly, they're going to come in, they're going to try to pass a lot of really stupid stuff that is going to anger the voters. There's going to be a lot of voter remorse within just a few months. And when that happens, the Democrats will have sown the seeds of their own demise, and then that's when we come in and we offer them a completely different solution, which is embrace the President of the United States, help them to bring down taxes, help them to build the wall, help them to bring back jobs, and help to completely rejuvenate the economy here in Virginia. And that is going to be the message. We're going to do that, and we are not going to be running away from those messages that the people wanted to hear from Ed Gillespie, but they didn't hear. And that is, they want to preserve, they want to protect their history. They want to do something about criminal, illegal alien gangs who are running rampant all across the Commonwealth. They didn't hear that from Ed Gillespie. Those ads said a little bit, but he never fully, as you said, Ed never embraced the president to his detriment.
Well, he played rope-a-dope with him, and it was quite maddening what went on, and people just aren't that dumb. You can't pull the wool over people's eyes for that long. He avoided the president. Every time Trump came to Virginia, Ed Gillespie was nowhere to be found. You couldn't find him. And then Mike Pence would come in, and there he'd be, on the stage, and I'd be introducing him or something. I mean, that's just reality, okay? I mean, one thing you have to do the day after a loss, Corey, of this magnitude is you got to cut the nonsense out, right? And you got to tell the truth. And you predicted this. You told me this exact thing that was going to happen. We had dinner in Prince William. I remember you took me to dinner, and you told me exactly what was going to happen if Ed won, and it all played out. So I just have to tell you that. And that was 7 months ago. You played the whole thing out. So you were right. Now the question is, going forward, can a Republican win in Virginia? I mean, you look at these numbers.
Look, when I was on the top of the ticket in Prince William County in 2015, all those Republican delegates in Prince William County who lost big time yesterday, they all won handily in 2015 when I was at the top of the ticket. Every one of them. And that's because what the voters are waiting for, they don't want these platitudes. They don't want these messageless, Republican boring, establishment campaigns. They don't want that. But they want you to stand up for who you are. They want you to actually get something done, which I've been able to do. And they don't want these platitudes. And that's been my way of winning, my philosophy, and it's done right. I've been winning 4 times in a row in the second largest locality in the state. I've got huge name recognition up here, and even Democrats vote for me because they know I can get stuff done. And that's the way I've been winning in Northern Virginia. That's how we're going to win in 2018. We're going to be very strong, very supportive of the president, very supportive of the Republican base and the Trump base. A lot of new working class voters who Ed and the rest of the establishment ridiculed when they ridiculed the president. They ridiculed his supporters. We're not going to make that same mistake. I'm going to be Corey Stewart. I'm going to be exactly who I've always been.
All right, well, 2 things. Chris Saxman is shaking his head, so I'm going to give him a chance to respond. But the second thing is, look, Corey, again, you need a sober analysis here. What happened? You're right. When you were at the top of the ticket in 2015, all these House members that got beat, every single one of them won, and you outpolled Hal Parrish that ran for Senate against McPike. You outpolled him by like 19, right? So you almost brought Hal Parrish up. So numbers don't lie. Math doesn't lie. Okay, we can all have emotion, but math doesn't lie. And I tell you the other thing today in looking at this, Corey Stewart, it's one thing to lose and you stand for something, right? It's one thing that, you stand for something, you fought your fight, you got your message out, you lost. It's tough night's sleep, but you can get up and go on. You get a day like today where you lose, and you ask yourself, what the hell did I stand for in this election? Because we had a bunch of people on. We couldn't figure out what Ed Gillespie's message was after 12 months of running for governor, other than he had 92 white papers on how to keep a rabbit out of your tomato garden. I have no idea what his message was. Their message was clear. Trump sucks. Get him out. That was their message. And that worked. And Ed's didn't. And so you get up today and you're like, what did we even fight this thing for? Because we got nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
There was no message. There was absolutely no message. The only thing that the base saw, you saw that the turnout in Southwest Virginia, as an example, was so low compared to the rest of the state. It's because they saw that you had Ed Gillespie message, but what they did see was that he was shunning the president. He was turning away from the president. He was avoiding the president, who they admire. And so they were like, well, if you're not going to support the president, we're not going to support you. And the entire Republican establishment, let me just tell them right square to their face today, over the radio waves, is that they are responsible. Ed Gillespie and all the establishment Republicans out there are directly responsible for this train wreck that we're having to assess this morning.
We appreciate your being candid with this, because I said on a day like today, with a disaster like today, and, sitting there last night and seeing a lot of my good friends go down, just knocked off one by one like pins in a bowling alley, was tough to take. And, my congratulations go to the Democrats, but a lot of good Republicans went down yesterday that really worked hard in serving their constituents. Corey, many of them. And so it's a tough thing. And to get up today and you say, well, what does the Republican Party of Virginia stand for? This campaign didn't stand for anything. Look, Jill Vogel embraced Trump, and she got another 55,000 votes that was under the governor.
That's right.
Race,
That's
right?
Exactly right. That's all you need
under
to know.
The governor's race.
That tells you everything right there. You had somebody who was not at the top of the ticket, but who had more than 55,000 more additional votes than the guy at the head of the ticket. Well, what was the only difference? It really, at the end of the
Trump.
day, the only significant difference is that she embraced the president. She was very strong in supporting the president and his views and his supporters. She and I were out there campaigning together down in Virginia Beach. And the establishment was saying, and Ed's campaign was saying, that was a big mistake. But it turned out to be that was exactly the right thing to do. You can't just diss the voters, diss the base, and expect that they're going to come out and turn out for you.
Well,
the problem with the establishment is they think they're smarter than everybody else, and they think that the rest of us are idiots. And what we found out this morning, that they are the fools. That the Republican establishment, which hasn't changed in 40 years, they've been saying the same dull, boring, uninspiring message that has essentially come to mean nothing. They've been saying it for 40 years. They've gotten nothing done. They won't support the president. They won't help implement his agenda. And then, the Republican establishment is surprised the day after a huge loss, because the base didn't show up. The Democratic base showed up.
Yeah.
The Republican one didn't.
I mean, that is what the numbers say, right? The Democratic base showed up. They were inspired. They wanted to relitigate the Clinton campaign. They showed up. The Republicans didn't. I got a call about 1 o'clock yesterday from Richard Krause, who is the consultant and works for the L.A. for Senator Stanley down there in the 5th district, or is it the 6th? Where is he? Saxman. Stanley he's in
South Side.
South Side. And they were telling me at 1 o'clock that they were getting a fraction of the turnout in 2017 in the Trump precincts that they got for Trump in 16. And Krause, who's a pretty shrewd dude, said to me on the phone at 1 o'clock, he said, what I'm seeing here right now is telling me that Trump voters don't give a rat's tail about this election and Ed Gillespie, and they're not coming out. And that was a telltale sign right there. And you look at the numbers on South Side, it was a disaster. They didn't get their people out. The Democrats did, the Republicans did not. Bottom line. I thought they would come out, but they didn't. And, the numbers, Corey Stewart, the numbers don't lie.
No, they don't. And I do think that Republicans, in looking at it as a smoldering wreck around us, I think people are recognizing, I think hopefully, the message is very, very clear that we've got to totally change course. We've got to support the president. We have to recognize that the Republican Party has changed. We have to recognize that the base has changed, and they want us to support the president. They want us to drop all this old establishment garbage and move forward.
All right, I just want to read you a couple of texts from our listeners. Steve in Chesapeake says, John, tell Corey we're sick and tired of being told to vote for the Republican by establishment Republicans. That's why Gillespie lost. People didn't vote. Colonel Mike in Virginia Beach says Ed Gillespie's a swamp monster hiding in the closet. And I'll read you one more. Chili in looks like Norfolk says Corey is 100% spot on. And there you have it. So,
hey, John, the one thing I want to be very clear is that the loss of all these delegates, the loss of delegates like Ron Villanueva and all the others, this is not their fault. They did nothing wrong. The problem was at the top of the ticket, you had an establishment guy who inspired nobody, and as a result, you have the complete disaster that goes all the way down. Why is it these guys were winning in 1 year and losing under Ed Gillespie? There's the answer. It's not their fault. But we can change it. We can take some of these seats back just 2 years from now. Mark my words, and we will. But we've got to be in. Now with this total destruction of the Republican Party, it's an opportunity to completely rebuild from ground zero.
Out of the ashes.
Out of the ashes.
Out of the ashes. Out of the ashes. Corey Stewart, rise the phoenix. Right. Out of the ashes.
That's exactly what we're going to do, John.
Rise the phoenix. Corey
Thanks
Stewart,
for having me
thanks
on
for
today.
being with us, man. Thank you. You got it.